Lost Cities is a two-player game where archaeologists are dueling to find the best archaeological finds. They will venture into different areas of the earth, which will take them to the deserts, to the waters, to the mountains, to the rainforests, or into the volcanoes. There is a deck of cards, and in the deck of cards there are 5 different suits, and all the suits have numbers 2 through 10. Additionally, every suit has 3 of these cards, which is a helping hand. At the beginning of the game, you'll deal out 8 cards to each person. The game will be played in 3 rounds, summing up the totals for each round to determine the victor. On a player's turn, they draw their hand, and then they have an option. They must either play a card into one of these expeditions, or they must discard. It's important to remember if someone discards a card, that card is available for the other person to pick up after they play, because once you play a card, you then draw to replenish your hand. There are rules on how you play your cards. Whenever you start an expedition, if you lay down a number, all subsequent numbers must be placed as a higher number than the one previously laid. So in this case, because 6 would be played, only a 7, 8, 9, or 10 could be played. Conversely, if someone had started with the red 2 over here, they have many more numbers to play on top of that number. They don't have to be in order, they just have to continue to be in an ascending order. Why is this important? Because after a player starts an expedition, because it's so costly, they immediately will get minus 20 points at the end of the round. At the end of the round, you will sum up the total of your points in a particular expedition and subtract 20. So if red had only played those 3 cards, that's a sum of 10 minus the 20 for the expedition. They now would have scored minus 10 for that category for the round. I had mentioned previously there are helping hand cards. These cards can actually make the expedition more valuable or more costly depending on the sum of cards you play. What they do is they double your final tally. So in this case, let's pretend that this was a red hand, like this. This would have been minus 10, I had told you, but now because there's a helping hand, you double it. So you've got minus 20. If you had 2 hands, it would then be minus 30, and if you had 3 hands, it would be, minus 20, and so forth. So with 3 hands, you will actually quadruple your final score. So because of the nature of having to place the cards in ascending order, it makes it very tense in deciding what to play, if you should start an expedition, or if you should discard. Obviously, discarding higher cards could be valuable to your opponent, especially if they're collecting that color. So oftentimes, players will look and they might just start with a helping hand, but they run the risk of, oh my goodness, what if I don't get more white cards later on? So starting low often is a good strategy. So in this case, the person would play the red 2, they get to replenish their hand, there's no discards to choose, and they would now have a yellow 3 added to their hand. Now it's the other player's turn. They look at their hand, they see what they got, they're like, oh, red has already started an expedition, but I'm in pretty good shape. So I could play that card and tip them off that I'm collecting red, or I could sandbag it a little and hold it. Yellow might say, okay, I'm going to take a chance. I know I have a 4, so I'm going to discard a helping hand and hope that I get yellow cards throughout the rest of the game. And then players would continue to take turns back and forth until there are no cards left to draw. When the pile of cards to draw from has been totally used, you then tally up the expeditions led in each group based on what I had said earlier, and you figure out your total value for expeditions that you've participated in. That will then be your score for round 1. You will do it 3 times, and whoever has the most points is the winner of Lost Cities.